Hello everyone, Joseph Dunphy here, and this is your weekly Grass10 grazing management update on the dairy edge. PastureBase figures for the week: the average farm cover is 806 kilos of dry matter per hectare, and the growth is 4 kilos of dry matter per hectare. And this growth is largely reflected of overwinter growth. Dry matter percentages: 15.5% was recorded in Moore County Cork, and 17% was recorded in Grange County Meath. Your grass growth, rainfall and soil temperature predictions for the coming 7 days. Grass growth predictions are largely expected to be between 5 and 9 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day over the next week. Soil temperatures are between 4 and 5 degrees, and predicted rainfall is expected to be between 12 and 15 for the east and the southeast of the country, and rainfall amounts of about 20 to 35 millimetres for the west and the north. Your Grass10 tips for the week: it's now time to complete your opening average farm cover on PastureBase Ireland. Initial farm covers that are in are slightly behind target at just over 800 kilos of dry matter per hectare. Walking your farm will help you to establish grass supply for the spring and also quantify overwinter growth for your farm since you last completed your closing average farm cover in early December. As you walk your farm, review grazing infrastructure that needs maintenance before cows go to grass. Last week, the Grass10 team ran Nutrient Management Week on all our social media platforms. As part of Nutrient Management Week, the Grass10 team hosted a webinar last Thursday with Dr. David Wall from Teagasc, Johnstown Castle. And please see the link on our social media accounts and in this week's Grass10 newsletter to watch that webinar back. We also would encourage everyone to use your slurry efficiently this spring. The prohibited period for spreading organic manures has passed for farms in Zone A and Zone B, and soon will too for farms in Zone C. Spread at a max rate of 2,000 gallons per acre of dilute cattle slurry, and adhere to buffer zones and weather warnings. Also, if you can, target low soil index 1 and 2 paddocks with your slurry. Soil temperatures are still relatively low and rainfall amounts are quite high for the next week, especially in western and northern areas. So always check the forecast in advance of spreading and postpone for a couple of days if there is any weather warning. It is now time to complete a spring grazing plan and grass budget for spring 2025. Identify paddocks to start grazing for when the weather allows. Start grazing in grass covers of 700 to 1200 kilos of dry matter per hectare with freshly calved spring cows or autumn calvers. Complete a grass budget and spring rotation planner to map out grazing and feed availability on your farm for spring 2025, and there's a tutorial in this week's Grass10 newsletter to help you to complete a feed budget. Lastly, on this week's podcast, a heads up for some upcoming events throughout the country during February. Teagasc are running 30 plus Spring Pasture Mornings throughout the country during February, where we'll be discussing spring grazing management on a farm near you. Topics to be discussed include selecting paddocks for early grazing, early nitrogen and slurry, grazing during difficult conditions, and feeding the cow better in 2025. So keep an eye out in the Grass10 newsletter and all Teagasc social media channels for details of events in your area over the weekend and into next week to see where your nearest event is. If you would like to hear more from the Grass10 team, subscribe to the weekly Grass10 newsletter, which is available on the Grass10 page on the Teagasc public website, and the link to the newsletter is also available in the description of this podcast. We'd like to thank the sponsors of the Grass10 campaign: AIB, Grassland Agro, Department of Agriculture, FBD and the Farmers Journal. This has been your Grass10 update, and I'll talk to you all next week.